Good day, everyone. I am Mr. Ishitu Tasfai, your biology teacher. This is grade 11 biology, week 16. The lesson for this week is chapter 34, lesson 4, fertilization and development, part 1. Your textbook page 995 to 998. Objectives of the lesson. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe the process of fertilization, and identify major processes at the early stages of development. Let's get started with the first part of this lesson, which is fertilization and early development. What takes place during fertilization and the early stages of human development? As far as fertilization is concerned, what happens first is sperm and egg cells must meet so that the two gametes can fuse to form a single cell. This fusion of a sperm and egg cell is called fertilization. Related to early development, the key events in early development include gastrulation, which produces three cell layers of the embryo, and neurulation, which leads to the formation of the nervous system. Now, fertilization in detail. During sexual intercourse, sperm are released when semen is ejaculated through the penis into the vagina. Semen is generally released just below the cervix, the opening that connects the vagina to the uterus. Sperm swim actively through the uterus into the fallopian tubes. If an egg is present in one of the fallopian tubes, its chances of being fertilized are good. The egg is surrounded by a protective layer that contains binding sites to which sperm can attach. The sperm head releases powerful enzymes that break down the protective layer of the egg. The haploid or N sperm nucleus enters the haploid egg. Chromosomes from sperm and egg are brought together to form a single diploid or 2N nucleus containing a set of chromosomes from each parent cell. The fertilized egg is now called zygote. At this point, the developing human can also be called as an embryo. When a sperm enters the egg releases a material that coats its surface. The coating forms a barrier or a tough membrane that prevents other sperm cells from attaching to and entering to the egg. This phenomenon was discovered by one of the founders of cell biology called Ernest Everett. And this flowchart shows the process of fertilization till the blastocyst attached to the uterus. As you can see here, the first event is the release of the egg to the fallopian tube, okay, from the ovary here. From the ovary, eggs will be released into the fallopian tube. Then, if there is copulation or sexual intercourse, the egg can be fertilized by the sperm. Then it will develop to the zygote, a single diploid cell. Then it divides mitotically, okay, to produce two cells. Then two cells will become four, four will become 16, 16, 32. Then finally will form a 64 cell ball known as morula. Okay, it's known as morula, containing 64 cells. Then it develops to another ball of cells called blastocyst. Then the blastocyst enters the uterus and attached to the uterus wall, which we call it implantation. Now let's see multiple embryos. As you know, there is only one egg ovulated to the fallopian tube from each ovary alternatively. However, if two eggs are released during the same menstrual cycle and each is fertilized, fraternal twins may result. Fraternal twins are not identical in appearance and may even be different sexes because each has been formed by the fusion of a different sperm and a different egg cell. Sometimes a single zygote splits apart and produces two genetically identical embryos. These two embryos are called identical twins because they result from the same fertilized egg. Identical twins are always the same sex. Implantation. While still in the fallopian tube, the zygote begins to undergo mitotic cell division, as I have said it in the previous slide. As the embryo grows, a cavity forms in the center until the embryo becomes a hollow ball of cells known as blastocyst. About 6 or 7 days after fertilization, the blastocyst attaches to the wall of the uterus and begins to grow into the tissues of the mother, number 8 in figure shown below, and this process is known as implantation. As you can see here, ovulation, then uh, fertilization, then formation of the zygote. The zygote divides mitotically to become 2 cells, then 4 cells, then 16, and finally we have morula. Okay, then it will develop to blastocyst, as you can see, attached to the wall of the uterus. And this attachment of the blastocyst to the wall of the uterus is called implantation. After implantation, cells in the blastocyst begins to specialize or differentiate, resulting in the development of the various types of tissues in the body. A cluster of cells known as the inner cell mass develops within the inner cavity of the blastocyst. The body of the embryo will develop from these cells, while the other cells of the blastocyst will differentiate into some of the tissues that support and protect the embryo. Gastrulation. The result of gastrulation is the formation of 3 germ layers called ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. The ectoderm and endoderm form first. The mesoderm is produced by a process of cell migration as shown in the diagram here. First, ectoderm and endoderm form, and then the mesoderm forms by cell migration. The ectoderm will develop into the skin and the nervous system. The mesoderm cells differentiate and form many of the body's internal structures, including bones, muscle, blood cells, and gonads, while the endoderm forms linings of organs in the digestive system, such as the stomach and intestines, as well as the respiratory and excretory systems. Neurulation. Neurulation is the first step in the development of the nervous system. Shortly after gastrulation is complete, a block of mesodermal tissue begins to differentiate into a structure called the notochord. Okay, as you can see in the diagram here, this is formed by the thickening of the ectoderm cells. As the notochord develops, the ectoderm near the notochord thickens and forms what is known as the neural plate. The raised edge of the neural plate forms neural folds and neural crust. Then the neural folds gradually move together and form the neural tube from which the spinal cord and the brain will develop. Cells of the neural crust migrate to the other locations and become types of nerve cells, skin pigment cells, and other structures such as the lower jaw. If the neural tube does not close completely, a series of birth defects known as spina bifida can result. Studies show that folic acid, also known as vitamin B9, can prevent most cases of the spina bifida. Because neurulation usually occurs before a woman is aware of pregnancy, folic acid is an important nutrient in any woman's diet. The placenta. The placenta is a connection bridge between the mother and the fetus, as you know, and the embryo is surrounded by 2 layers, and these are the amina, the internal layer filled with amniotic fluid that cushions and protects the developing embryo. Another external layer, known as the chorion, is just outside the amina. The chorion makes a direct contact with the tissues of the uterus. Near the end of the 3rd week of development, small finger-like projections called the chorionic villi form on the outer surface of the chorion and extend into the uterine lining. The chorionic villi and the uterine lining form a vital organ called the placenta. The placenta is the connection between the mother and the embryo that acts as embryo's organ of respiration, nourishment, and excretion. As you can see in this structure, the placenta envelopes the developing fetus, and it is made from both fetal tissues and maternal or mother tissues. Here you can see when we zoom out, you have fetal portion of the placenta, like the chronic villus, and maternal portion of the placenta, which are maternal arteries, maternal veins, carry blood towards the tissue, and this one maternal vein away from the tissue, which is common for both the mother and the fetus. Across the placenta, oxygen and the nutrients diffuse from the mother's blood to the embryo's blood, and carbon dioxide and metabolic waste diffuse from the embryo's blood to the mother's blood. The blood of the mother and that of the embryo flow past each other, but they don't mix. The exchange of gases and other substances occur in the chorionic villi. The umbilical cord, which contains two arteries and one vein, connects the embryo to the placenta. After 8 weeks of development, the embryo is called a fetus. By the end of 3 months, most of the major organs and the tissues are fully formed. The muscular system is well developed. The fetus may begin to move and show signs of reflexes. The fetus is about 8 centimeters long and has a mass of about 28 grams. Thank you very much for watching. See you very soon.